so excited for this, guys. Our guest today is a ketogenic health coach. He specializes in the ketogenic diet for overall health, losing weight, and gaining muscle. He's also the founder of the ever-growing community on Facebook, Keto for Health, with now over 16,000 group members and counting. You can also catch him on his YouTube channel where he shares his knowledge and educating others through mostly his own experiences with his own health journey. Also, he just published an ebook filled with holiday recipes titled The KeyTo Christmas. Love the wordplay there, by the way. You can catch him on his website. I'll reveal that in a second. I'm so excited for this. I'm here with Kevin Mason, better known as Keto Kev, the Primal Bear. Kevin, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me on.
Man, I'm always honored to have someone here that lived it, the ups, the downs. Just so excited to have you on. Also want to thank you for accepting my invitation, even though there's a bit of a time difference between you. Coach Kev, you're from Germany, right?
Oh, yeah, I live in Germany at the moment. Yeah.
Awesome. And, I hope you guys can stick around because we are about to talk keto success story with Coach Kev here today. So for everyone that's listening, just briefly getting into Coach's Kev's story here, 13 years in the army, within your, whilst you're there, towards the end of your career, you gained a little bit of a weight, right?
Yeah.
Whilst in it, then more to the story, and I'll let you tell it in a second. Then you got out, discovered the paleo diet through your wife, right?
Yeah.
Did some more research on paleo, and then you found keto, that changed the trajectory of your life forever. Lost just about, you said 35 kilos, which is, I think, about 80 pounds.
Yeah, it's about 80
Um,
pounds.
80 pounds in pounds. And here you are today helping people achieve the same thing. You have this fire that I see in a lot of people who struggled and lived to tell the story. Obviously motivated, seeing how you work, seeing your progress, and just reading up on what you did. You're committed to what you do now, making an impact on so many people's lives. Coach Kev, on this podcast, I always focus on how the decision was made, how the decision to transition was made. Transition meaning from what was our lifestyle before to now our lifestyle today, the keto lifestyle. And I want to start with this. In my opinion, understanding your experiences and shared with the, obviously, our listeners here can be the key to their success, as well as as long as they find value in it. But it's so important to dig in deeper into our experience. So let's go back. The earliest thing you could remember about your food habits, and your environment around food growing up. Were you somebody that's always been, trying to eat healthy growing up? And you could talk about before the army, right? Are you wanting to be healthy but lacking guidance, or it didn't occur to you at all? So what's the story there? What's the backstory? What's the food relationship?
I had absolutely nothing, no clue about nutrition or anything like that before I joined the army. I worked in some like smaller pubs in the UK, and yeah, I learned a little bit about cooking, and I learned more from a chef friend of mine who's quite a good chef. And he used to be the chef for the Sultan of Brunei. And he taught me about the finer things about food, like a bit more like fine dining cuisine when I was younger. And I just assumed that that was what good food was. But the ingredients that he was using were still like flour, vegetable oils and sugars. There was no nutrition there. It was all like fancy food. So I just kind of, thought that that was what food was. And I didn't really look into nutrition when I was younger. Even when I was in the army, it went downhill when I joined the army because it was all about, drinking and partying and eating
Mm.
pizzas and fast food and takeaways and things like that. So my nutrition, I had absolutely no idea. They tried to educate you in the army, but they educate you with with the wrong information. They're still stuck in the time zone that we need to get out of and forget. So no, I had no clue about it.
What sort of food do you guys have, like when you were in the army? What's examples of type of food?
Oh man, it would be like pasta, like pasta
Mm,
mixes, pasta bakes and things like that,
mm,
burgers, like chips or fries, you
mm,
guys call them, and things like that. I'll never forget when I was in, actually, I was in Iraq in 2005 and I done some convoys driving to the American camp. And we walked into the American cookhouse and the food there was phenomenal. It was amazing. And we
mm,
walked in there and there was such a variety. And there was lobster
mm,
in there. And I was like, wow, lobster. There was strawberries, there was cream, there was, you can have this, you can have that. So compared to the American side of things, the food was in the British Army it was terrible. And it still is. I know people still today, and it's all kind of fast food,
mm,
bad salads. They're trying to push this 5 fruit and vegetables a day, but
mm.
they just don't have the quality and they don't have the knowledge, unfortunately.
What was your idea of healthy before you knew about paleo or keto? What's a healthy meal look like to you at the time?
Um, I would say, it was the 5 fruit and vegetables a day that the British people they push this. Your brown bread,
Mm,
kind of these breakfast cereals like bran flakes we used to get, which are the like all
fiber.
brown
Mm,
kind of fiber, yeah, packed full of fiber, things like that. And I tried even before when I left the army,
mm,
I went vegan for a month to see what it was
mm.
like,
How
to
how
see
did
if
that go?
it's something that I don't really talk about and many people don't know. But, after a week of being vegan, I set myself to a month. I wanted to do it for a month. Um, my wife, we done it together, and it was just before I left the army because we thought at the time, that was, that was good.
Mm,
That was what was being pushed. So we
mm.
tried it, and after a week, I just felt so tired and lethargic, and I was like,
Yeah.
this can't be the way that you have to be,
Yeah.
because it was all grain based and tofu, and I was like,
Mm,
no, this isn't right. So I
mm,
had no idea. I mean, we used to stick to yeah, like vegetables and leaner cuts of meat and avoid the
mm.
fats and things like
Yeah.
that. That was what we thought healthy was
Yeah.
before I discovered paleo.
Yeah. The low fat movement. You can't have fat. You know, I don't think I've had this much bacon in a week compared to my whole life, man. So I would just get rid of I would have a few bacon, but I wouldn't have it like how much I'm having it now. I'm
Yeah,
just so terrified of fat at the time because you were told fat becomes fat.
yeah,
You become fat when you eat fat. And so, with all of that low fat movement, it's just um and now after you've learned so much about food and nutrition, you would look at these low fat items that you used to have before, and it's packed with sugar.
yeah. Everything's got sugar in it.
Mm,
Everything's got dextrose
yeah.
or a wannabe sugar in there. It's terrible.
Let's talk about after your career in the army. Um, Obviously, you've gained about 80 pounds, right? Or
Yeah, I think it was 286 pounds we worked out of the other day.
286
Yeah,
pounds.
200, yeah.
And then when you got out of the army, your wife was in paleo. Talk us through that.
Yeah, she started paleo. She
Mhm.
found Marxism and the Primal Blueprint and was kind of trying to push me towards it. And she said, "Oh, it's really good." And I was like, "Yeah, but I like my ciabatta loaf with some lettuce and
Mhm.
like a BLT kind of thing. And I'm not going to give up bread. And I like pasta too. pasta and pizza too much?
Mm-hmm.
And I said
Mm-hmm.
no. And then I stood there in the mirror one day, and my wife, she's long blonde hair, blue eyes, very beautiful, very slim. And I looked at her, and then I looked at me in the mirror, and I was like, geez, you're disgusting. And I looked at myself and I was like, how can you even be married to me? Like looking like this, like it's awful. And like, I'm so fat. And I looked at her, I said, right, come on, teach me about
Mm.
paleo. And that was it. She taught me about paleo and primal. And
Mm.
then she said, come on, what have you got to lose? And I actually did. I always say I did have something to lose, and it was the weight.
Mm.
And it
Yeah.
fell off me. It just went like 4 or 6
Mm.
kilos, like 10, 12,
How
14
far
pounds.
into the diet were you
3
seeing the
weeks.
benefits? 3
3 weeks and it
weeks.
was
Mm.
off. Yeah, I didn't touch the scales until about 3 weeks,
Mm.
and I was like 10 or 12 pounds down.
No bread. What do you think about not having bread, not having pasta anymore? Are you looking at this as a 7 day or 30 day thing that you're gonna be on and then off it? Or are you looking?
At the
Mm,
time, I was like, well, I'll try it because, happy wife, happy life, and see what happens. That was what I was thinking at the time. And then once I started doing it, I was like, I feel better. And if I feel this good with just remove, because at the time I still had a little bit of sugar and I still had a
mhm,
little bit of, like the other foods like potatoes and things. And if you can feel that good just after like less than 30 days,
mhm.
just ditching and just getting rid of one thing, then why have we got that in our diet? And it was an instant, like a light bulb flipped on. And I was like,
Yeah.
why am I doing this to myself? And then my knees started to, stop aching. My back started to stop hurting. But
Mm,
the biggest thing that I had was in the night, in my sleep, I would scratch the inside of my legs, but I
mm,
would scratch the skin open and it would bleed. And I'd wake up in the morning with blood everywhere. And I'd be like, wow, I went to the doctors, the army doctor, and I said, what is it? Why is it so itchy? Just here, just on the thigh.
mm,
It hurts, when I sweat because I was overweight. I would sweat a lot, and my legs would rub together. And I just thought that that's what you are. You're fat, your legs rub together. But that was the biggest thing that went completely away. And then about a year later, I'd done a DNA test just for fun to see where I'd come from and things like that. My wife done it as well, and we sent the results back to get our like allergy tests as well done, and it came back, and I was like, oh, I can't have gluten, and I was like, oh,
mm,
that's interesting. I felt better
mhm.
after a year of paleo and not eating gluten. So then I just started to like look.
How do you get diagnosed with that? Do you, what are the telltale signs of having, I understand that you were diagnosed with gluten intolerance, right?
Yeah, that's right. So um, everyone on the planet has an intolerance to gluten.
Mm,
No one can handle it. It just depends on your scale of how you can digest it and or you can't digest it, how you can process it.
mhm,
So basically, the gluten itself is like glue because it comes from the Latin word, and it sticks to the inside of your gut microbiome, and it damages the wall on the inside. And what it does is like, I always love this little analogy, is if you've seen The Hobbit and you see the little hobbits that come down on the mine shaft and they're digging away, and that's what the gluten does. They just chip away and chip away
mm,
at the inside of your intestines until there's a hole. Once
mm,
there's a hole, then you start to get leaky gut. Now,
mm,
it depends on how intolerant you are and how quickly you can get the gluten out of your system. Depends on how badly you have it. Some people
mm,
with celiacs, they have gluten intolerance or like higher than what others do. So whereas some people aren't affected, or at least they think they're not affected, once you come off gluten, you'll see the difference and you'll see the inflammation go down and things
mm,
like that. That's one thing. Another thing that is quite common in children is called gluten ataxia. And gluten ataxia is where the gluten jumbles up the messages that goes to your brain through your cerebellum, which is just at the back of your head. and it jumbles up those messages, and it can play around with your cognitive function. So whereas I was told when I was a child that I was clumsy, and my mum would say, "Oh, that's just Kevin, he's clumsy. Oh,
Mm,
don't go into that china shop because you'll touch something, it will fall over." I remember it so distinctively when I was a child.
mm,
Stay out of here. Oh, that's Kevin, he's just fallen over. Oh, he's got a bump or a bruise or a knock or something like that.
mm.
It's not. It's called gluten ataxia, and it's seriously damaging to children. And once I took my children off gluten, my son stopped
Mm.
being clumsy as well, and I saw it as well. And then I researched it, and it's amazing the different effects that gluten can have
No,
on the human body.
that's so interesting because I was looking at this, and people go through life not knowing they have this.
Yeah,
They will go
I have
through
no idea.
life, right? If you didn't, if you, let's say for example, you didn't know about the paleo diet, or because you've known the paleo diet through your wife, right?
Yeah,
And if your wife didn't do it, then you would still maybe
yep,
still be suffering from this ailment.
yeah,
And so imagine this, imagine people going through the rest of your lives not knowing that gluten or grain or whatever is actually the cause of what you thought was normal for you,
yeah. It,
right?
it it's scary. It's totally scary.
So I can imagine that because you know you've discovered it yourself, and you've gone through, you know, your life not knowing that you had this. If you knew that you had this earlier, you who knows where you'll be,
Yeah.
right? Because you're here just full of energy doing all of these things. And you know, could you imagine yourself doing all of these things being on the old diet?
Never, never. You know, I my wife makes jokes sometimes because she said that I would still eat in the same diet in a position now as educated as I am, you know, because I absorb all of the information and all of it just, and, you know, I was learning from it and I would never remember it, or I didn't know anything about it. Now it's like it's everything stored. I like to make the joke that it's like the isn't it, where they take that little tablet and you have unlimited amount. I think that's what keto and
I understand that um you've been on the paleo diet for about 2.5 years, I believe, right?
yeah, I think it was about that. Two and yeah, between 2 and 3 years. It's I don't really keep track.
then what led you to looking up keto, or how did you find out about keto?
Well, I was watching. I mean, because I live in Germany and German telly really sucks. So we never used to watch German TV. So we used to watch like some YouTube and watch some of the American shows. And I watched Fit to Fat to Fit with Drew Manning,
Mm,
and I was like, oh, this guy, and because it was like a rerun, it was like done a few years ago. He'd
mm,
already turned into the keto guy, and I was like, it was really interesting. He was all about a little bit about meditation and
mm,
mindfulness and something a little bit of a new direction. So I watched him, and then I was like, "Well, what's keto then?" And she said, "My wife said, well, like read a little bit more of the book again, and you'll see that Mark Sissons mentions ketosis as well." And I was like, "Okay." So I started researching keto, and I was like, I don't know, like because on paleo I was still eating a lot of fruit and vegetables, and I was like,
yeah.
it's a lot more fat and a lot less vegetables. Is that really going to work? You know, is it going to work? So that's how I kind of found it. And it took me a while. It took me about a year of still being on, you know, or about 6 months of still eating paleo foods before I took
Mhm.
the plunge into keto.
What made you finally decide to get into keto? Was there somebody, or did your wife get into keto, or what was the story there after a year, your reluctance? Because I'm thinking, did you do your research first before getting into it, or?
Yeah, I'd done a lot of research into it because it nerved me a little bit. I made me a bit anxious
Mm,
that I was going to start consuming fats, and I'd never counted macros before, so I didn't know what I was doing. Because on paleo, it was just like eat fruit and vegetables and a little bit of meat,
mm,
and then you're
mm,
okay. Yeah, she tried keto, and I think we started at the same time. But it was more a case of, I think I hit a weight stall, like a plateau,
Mm,
and it was frustrating me. And the more I was getting frustrated, like my weight wasn't shifting again, and I was like so close to my goals of being, like under 100 kilos, or,
mm,
and I was like, well, what have you got to lose? But the funny thing is I actually gained weight when I started
mm,
keto because I'd done it completely wrong, and even though I'd researched it, I was eating way too much fat. It was like
mm.
super high amounts of fat and not enough protein. So I kind of failed. So although when I started doing it, I wasn't even on Facebook because I didn't have Facebook at the time. So I didn't join any of these communities and talk to coaches. It was just trial and error until I like found the way that it worked for me, really.
So the goal was to lose a bit more weight, right,
Yeah.
on the ketogenic diet. So what did you how did you finally get over the hump of fat, right? That's most of the people that, you know, has struggled to transition to keto is the fact that um fat was, you know, this evil, this thing that you can't have, right? And with keto, and you see it everywhere now, that celebrities use it for rapid weight loss, and people think that it can't be healthy to be on keto, eat all of this fat and lose weight. Like the you could understand how people would see this through that lens. It's just hard to get over, right? So for you, what did it what because you've said it, right? Fat was vilified.
Yeah.
Fat was this bad thing, but what made it what made you finally made that leap, make that decision to go get over that hump? It's a pretty big hump to get over.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I think the thing that done it for me was I had a bulletproof coffee, and then I had
Mm.
another bulletproof coffee, and I was like, oh my God, this is delicious. And I hated coffee before. And I always used to laugh at my dad and everyone else were drinking coffee because, English people, we drink tea. So,
Mm.
you're not a real English gentleman if you're drinking coffee. So, and I tasted the bulletproof coffee for the first time, I think it was in 2016, at a paleo convention. And then I'd still been looking up keto a little bit. And that was it. That was for me, was I went to the paleo convention where there was a lot of people doing keto there as well. And I tasted this bulletproof coffee. It was
Mm.
amazing. Then I had another
Mm.
one, and then I had another one. And I was like, I was full of energy. I'd
Mm.
never felt so, like I started going hot all of a sudden. I was
Mm.
like,
Mm.
Jesus Christ, like I'm hot. And like, oh
Mm.
my God, what it was like my mind was racing. And I
Mm.
thought, what am I feeling here? Like I've never felt it because I'd never been in ketosis before. And I was like, it was like a drug. It was like a drug that when you
Mhm.
hit ketosis for the first time, it was the most amazing feeling. And then we spoke to a few people and they were
Mm.
like, and I said, well, I've just had this bulletproof coffee and now I feel like I'm on fire. I feel like I can go home and just rebuild a house or something. And they explained it a little bit more about why I felt that way and
Mm.
what it was. And I was like, so fat does this to you? And they were like, yeah, you can get it from your body fat. You can get it from, and I was like, right, okay, that's it. I have to do it. And I went back and I was like, right, bacon, butter. Okay, let's do it. Let's try it. And I was like trying it and it just came. And then the more you do it, it just comes more natural to you. And you just think, yeah, when I was a child, I never used to have so much bread when I was a child. I would remember that I would have um just cheese and butter and bacon and then like a little bit of bread. But the cheese, big pieces of cheddar cheese.
Mhm.
And and I used to have a little bit of the
Mm.
bread, yeah,
Mm.
sure, but it was, and I thought, well, maybe that's what we're supposed to eat then, because
Mhm.
it's what I used to eat when I was a kid. And um, I used to drink so much milk as well when I was a child. And compared to everyone else in my family, I'm like a foot taller than them. And so I always laugh and say, well, either It's all the milk that I used to drink, because I used to drink like between 2 and 4 liters a day used to go down me, or I'm adopted. So, just the milk or whatever, I don't know. But then, obviously we don't drink milk on keto, but it was, it was full fat. So it was full fat milk, and full fat cheese I was eating. So I was like, yeah, sure. Let's do it. And again, what have I got to lose apart from the weight?
Maybe that's why you are so committed to this. You are so committed to sharing your story, educating others, is because we sort of like are obligated to tell people about this,
Yeah,
right?
definitely.
You've described a moment, that first time that you were in ketosis. It's like a superpower.
Yeah.
Imagine this. You're doing all of this. You're now powerlifting. You are running your own business. You're coaching people, educating others. You're on YouTube educating others, right?
Yeah.
Do you sort of feel like a different kind of, you know, animal, a beast,
Yeah,
on
sure.
keto?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I've been out of, since I started keto, there's been, I've had my bad times as well, and I've come off keto as well, for like a few days or a week or something like that. And I've had episodes, not in the last 2.5 or 3 years, but certainly before that, before I gave up alcohol, it was like I wouldn't, although I had the knowledge, I still wasn't using it to its full advantage. Um, and it wasn't until I gave up alcohol that really things started to hit me, and I really started to build up the business. So yeah, I can't imagine. I just can't even imagine not
Mhm.
having the feeling of ketosis. I mean, I know that I'm not. I know that I'm in ketosis most of the time, but I know that I am not super in ketosis all the time, because
Mhm.
you can feel it. You are a little
Yeah.
bit in, but no, yeah, it is like a superpower, I guess. It's like that untapped energy source that you can always go to.
Yeah, no, I always talk about this. When I used to be before keto, it was hard for me to finish a book. It was hard for me to finish a chapter even. And today I could sit down and read. I could sit down and read. I'm on this podcast for over a year now. I can't imagine myself being this consistent before. Can It's just there's something in me that wants to share. uh you're here to tell your story, right? It's almost midnight over there, and you're sharing your story today.
Yeah, man. Yeah,
Yeah.
I can go all night.
It's a different sort of feeling that keto gives us. It's like this commitment that we're on. It's like we're on this journey to tell people about what we're feeling, because it's so different. It's sort of like a paradigm shift
Yeah,
almost that happened in our lives, that I can't imagine my life going back to the way it was. I can't imagine it. It's
definitely not.
very unproductive for me. And whenever I'm in the early stages of keto, for me, when I would go on a cheat week, it will be so hard to get back up on my feet. It will be
Yeah,
so hard
yeah,
to focus, and that those moments, those downs, just validates keto for me to be the way to live, right? um Man, I love what you're doing with your community, right? You have this commitment, you have this your experience, your wealth of knowledge that you share with your community, now over 16,000 people. How did you start that community? Like, how did you build this thriving community on Facebook? um where did that start?
yeah. I wasn't the admin of the
Mhm.
group when I joined it. I joined and there was about 500 members, and there was a guy, the guy that I mentioned, Drew. He had his own group, and he was working with a business partner. And his business partner, because I wanted to build my business and I didn't really have any knowledge of business, so I watched these YouTube videos, and this guy said, join, like, open a keto group or open a group in your niche or whatever you want to have. and then join others as well, and just give all the knowledge that you have, just give all the knowledge that you have, everything that you could possibly think of into these other groups. And I did. I just gave everything, all the knowledge. And my wife, she's very, very, very clever. And before I joined the groups, we worked out a very, very scientific or mathematical formula of working out macros, which is way different to other people. So it takes a certain percentage of your total body weight and works out how healthy it would be, so that you can lose the right amount of weight without dipping into being too low in your calories. So it gives you a calorie deficit from fat, so that you can tap into that exact point where you will use your body fat but not go into starvation. And I started calculating people's macros for them, and I would stay up until, like 1, 2, 3 in the morning, and I'd have there with my phone, and I'd be like, all right, this person, it's in stone. And I'd be like, oh, I don't have it in stone. I don't know what that is. Okay, I've got it in kilos. Okay. Right. I'd be like, hey Siri, what is whatever? And my wife was like, right, get out of the way. Let me build you a macro calculator on Excel. And she was like there for about 3 hours doing it and converting and stuff. And she said, right, all you need to do is just type in the things. And I was like, right, okay. So I started building, like just a presence and just helping people and telling people how to do things. And one person was like, are you a coach? And I was like, no, never really coached anyone before. Don't even have any qualifications, to be honest. And they were like, how can you have all this knowledge about keto and health and not be qualified in it? Like, go and find a qualification. So I went and done, like, I think 4 online courses or something like that, and I whizzed through them, and passed them all and became a coach. And I was a teacher in the army anyway, so teaching style, you can cross reference a teaching style into a different genre of teaching. It's just teaching's the same. It's just having the knowledge of that specific topic or subject. So I started coaching people, and then, I became the person, because I don't take any BS. I don't listen to people when they, I do listen to people, but I don't take any crap. And I'm right down the line, and I will say it exactly how it has to be said. It's like, if people say, I don't know, I'll try to give you an example. At the beginning, I was quite arrogant, but they would ask questions. Oh, can we have, but what if we have gluten just once a week? And I'm like, no, it's just no. Like, there's the answer. Don't, muck around and have it once a week. Just ditch it. What's wrong with you? And people, like, they loved it, and they were like joining the group, and they were like, Kev is the person, he can work it out. And then I started doing live videos on Facebook, Q&A videos, and I would sit there as well for 3 or 4 or 5 hours in a room in my basement, and just answer people's questions. And they would come on and on and on. There'd be like 4, 5, 6, 700 people watching. And then I was going up to my wife, and I was waking her up at 1 a.m. I was like, I reached 5,000 people today on my Facebook video, on my page. And they were like, and she's going, yeah, I'm trying to sleep. I've got uni in the morning. And I was on fire, because I was working so late, and the ketones were kicking in, and maybe a bit too much coffee as well. And it just grew and grew and grew. And the scientific knowledge, the courses that I've done in diabetes and awareness, gut health, red light therapy, it's just all adding on to, the already, like, it's like, yeah, add-ons. If you're playing, a computer game or something, you just get a new add-on, and you just get a new add-on, and then you teach people, and it grows and grows and grows, and you've just got so much to give. It's like, how I just can't stop now.
Yeah, no, because it looks like it's you've hit your niche there. You hit your, you know you talked about teaching all of these things. I'm curious about the mindfulness piece of this, right? With people, right? How important is mindfulness in creating this sustainable lifestyle? Because that is what we want, right? We want this to be sustainable. It can't be just a 7-day thing. you know, like you said, you can't have gluten once a week, right?
Yeah,
Your mindset should be this is something that will have to be a long term thing, right? The ultimate goal is to stay consistent.
yeah.
Mindfulness is a huge part of that. Is that part of your program, mindfulness,
Yeah,
at all?
yeah. I've created
Mm-hmm.
I've created a whole new a whole different course on my website,
Mm-hmm.
which is just aimed at mindfulness. How you can how you can overcome anxiety. Looking at the perfect way that you want to look. And all those kind of things. And it's super important. And I always look at my coaching is I do it in the 4 pillars, and I say it's always got 4 pillars. A house is always, or a platform is always stable with 4 pillars, and that's food, fitness, health, and well-being. You take away a pillar, it's going to stand, but it's not going to be at its optimal strength. You take away the 2 pillars, and you're looking a bit sketchy, depending on which one you take away, which corner. If you take away 3 of them, then it's a disaster. It's always strong when you've got the 4.
Mm-hmm.
So if you concentrate on your food, that's the most important, because that's about 65% of your 65-70% of your overall health is on food, and then it's broken down into fitness, which is super important because you have to be active, you have to get your heart rate up, you have to burn those calories, you have to stay active. And then so food, fitness, health is coming into things like when you're looking into what the foods and the sports are actually doing to you.
Mm-hmm.
So lectins, oxalates, all those kind of anti-nutrients, and where you're going to get your vitamins from, what you're going to eat and stuff like that. And then well-being is things like red light therapy, sleep, because that's super important.
Important. Yeah.
Mindfulness, meditation, knowing your body and really looking inside,
Mm-hmm.
and taking a leaf and taking a look, sorry,
Mm-hmm.
about where you need to change. And that part actually grew for me because a guy in Florida that I watched on a TV program, I reached out to him because I didn't, he's a yoga instructor,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't have a clue about anything like this. And that was like the final piece of the puzzle that I didn't have at the beginning to create what I wanted. And then after speaking to this guru, this guy, he pointed me in the right direction, and I learned all about peace of mind, how to meditate the way I wanted to do it, and it's the one I think is one of the most important, because if you can't have mindfulness and if you stress yourself out, then nothing's going to happen. You're not going to lose
Mm-hmm.
weight. Your cortisol levels are going to screech, through the roof. And you just
Yeah.
have to have the right mindset.
Mm-hmm.
And it's
Mm-hmm.
like you said, you can't just give it up. I think if you give something up, what the best way to be is the strongest that you can be, and you go cold turkey. When I gave up alcohol, I didn't just go down and down and
Mm-hmm.
down. I just said stop, finish, done.
Mm-hmm.
Same with smoking, same with anything like that. If you have an addiction or anything like, or you can't get rid of something, I really think that going completely cold turkey is the
Mm-hmm.
best way to go, because you are
Mm-hmm.
never going to go back to it then.
Man, I love that because all of that is interconnected in ourselves, right?
Yeah.
We are this whole thing, your wholesome thing that you have to be sleeping. If you're not sleeping, good luck with, you're losing weight, right?
I couldn't even believe how
Mm-hmm.
important that was.
Mm-hmm.
And once you start tracking your sleep as well,
Mm-hmm.
and you're looking at what kind of REM sleep you get,
Mm-hmm.
and how much deep sleep, and what affects your sleep as well. If you've got the window open too much, or if
Mm-hmm.
it's not totally dark in there, I wear a sleeping mask sometimes, and
Mm-hmm.
I have to take most electrical things out of the room,
Mm-hmm.
and unplug things and put tapes over any
Mm-hmm.
lights that you've got in there as well. I just can't get over
Yeah.
how important just the sleep was as well. It's amazing.
You would be surprised how much subtle things can do for your sleep, right?
Yeah,
You talked about a few things there that would help your sleep tremendously, right?
yeah,
A huge piece of that too is meditation, right?
yeah,
Meditation helps you sleep actually,
yeah,
right? Just clearing your head before going to sleep is huge help for me when I was starting that. And your health will just break down if you're not sleeping enough, right?
yeah,
And so all of these things are part of your journey, a part of your health journey. It's not just one thing. I love your concept of having these 4 pillars. If you're not if you're not working out, if you're not accountable to yourself,
Yeah.
then you're not disciplined enough to be consistent anyways.
Yeah.
So just having that, having all of that, I love that I love those four pillars that you talked about, and it's just tremendous. What's the biggest challenge of your clients that you've seen so far?
The number one thing that most of my clients have is their partners or their families. That's the biggest hurdle to overcome. And I see it so many times. I've lost so many clients in the end of they've done amazing on their course. The accountability has been fantastic. And it's like we finished the coaching together and I'm like, are you okay? Is everything all right? You know, you've always got me here. You know, it's not just it's not just do coaching and then I forget about you. There's aftercare and everything. Like, if they go back and their partners or their children or anyone that they've got around them, their friends and family, are not supportive, that's the worst thing that can happen to them. And I feel so bad when they come back for us. If I have a client twice, then I feel bad. It's like, you shouldn't be coming to me twice. It's not you know, I'm not Netflix and you subscribe and stay with me forever. It has to be coach once, live forever. That's why I always say coach once, you know, stay and live forever. And it's sad when, you know, when they don't get the support. I think that's the biggest thing they can overcome. And a lot of it is like, a lot of my clients come to me and they say, oh, I want my children to eat better. And how can I get them to do that? And I say, right, who is the boss in the house? Who's the boss? And they say, I don't know. Okay, so who does the shopping? You know, who does the shopping is the controls everything. So whoever does the shopping in the house is the controller. They have everything. So and they say, well, it's me. Okay, so you control what your children eat, or you control what your husband eats. And if your children don't like what you put in front of them or what you've cooked for them, then they can either go without dinner or they can go and hunt their own animal or they can look for, you know, it's like, and I am super like that with my kids. It's like, that's the military style though. And that's also what I think people liked about me in the beginning. Like when I first started the group, it's like doing this and supporting with me, then how can I have your support in anything? And I know that that's a horrible thing to say. And I don't want, you know, relationships or things to break down, but it's only a month. It's just 1 month, you know, and then do it together, you know, do it as a, you know, do it as a team. It's a team effort. You know, you should have the support of your partner no matter what. And, you know, and, you know, if you say to your children, I'm sorry, I love you, but I really need this 1 month without you going and buying, you know, whatever you get, your cereal or Captain Crunch and stuff, you know, it's like, you need it and you need that support. Support's the number one.
Yeah. If you get through 30 days of keto, I don't think if you're doing it right, if you're doing it correctly, if you're doing the steps, I don't think you'll be, and if you've experienced what we've experienced here, I don't think you ever want to go back. Even if you have that partner, you have that desire, you already built a habit. You already have consistency. I think, you know, Coach Kev, I think just having that desire, even though that partner could be the number one thing that stops you, you know, you could still cook for your partner. If you're the person that cooks in the family, you can cook for your partner separately, right? And you know, you'll find that you can convince them, not right away, but slowly but surely. It happened to you, right?
Yeah, it did. Yeah.
It happened to me as well, right?
I teach my, because most of my clients are women. They're a lot of them. The group is mostly, I think it's about 90% females and 90% ladies in there. And I teach them when they come to me and they say, I'm really trying to get my husband to do this. And I say, okay, well, let's be sneaky and let's take out a little bit at a time. And, you know, let's first of all replace his bread. Oh, I forgot to get the bread. And, or if you're going to make a dinner, you can make it completely keto and then add rice or potatoes to his or to the kids, you know, and because I mean, I don't have a problem with children having like sweet potato and things like that. Even rice sometimes is fine. You know, they're children, they're burning so much energy anyway, kids are, because they're running around constantly all day. So it's like you can replace those things with the non-gluten type things and the non-sugary type things. And normally once they start to do that and they fall into the kind of when they taste, because my kids, they cook as well and they cook with me. And if I'll sit here, I'll make a recipe and I'll sit here on the computer and I'll read the recipe to my daughter. My daughter will stand over there in my test kitchen and she'll do it and say, if my daughter can cook it, then, you know, Heidi's a fantastic cook, but she's only done it because she's read, oh, I want to have something. And because I don't buy sweets and chocolate, and I've got like a store of like 85% dark chocolate here and erythritol and all these other things. And she'll come down and she'll say, can I bake a cake? And I'll say, yeah, but it's got to be keto. So if you want to look, you either take a recipe or it's got to be paleo, because I don't mind the paleo. And I said, you either take a recipe off the internet or you take one of mine, but it's got to be done here. And she does it and she's brilliant.
Man, that's the ultimate thing. That's the ultimate goal, having a house, keto house right there, that like you have, man. I want to pivot to clients that has found success. What have you found common with those clients, you think? Is it mindset? Is it just experience? Or is it just the desire they have from a bad experience? What was it? What's the common thing?
I think it's like all the success that's come has been some of the women that have or I've done male clients as well, but most of them, all of my successful clients have just they've just had the determination, and they've said that they've been through so much with all these other kind of diets, and they feel that they've hit the bottom and they're ready to do anything and just listen to someone. And the thing is like, because I'm not a dictator, but you know, like there's not much involved. It's just I tell them what to do and I just like feed them like a machine gun the knowledge, and they have to read it and they have to come back to me and tell me the answers. They have to be accountable. So the ones that are succeeding, which I haven't had many clients fail, you know, there's only been a handful. And you know, perhaps that was even, you know, I was coaching them wrong. It might not have even been their fault. You know, we're not all perfect. You know, so the ones that have been successful, there's one lady, she moderates for my group as well. She lost, I think she lost 4 or 5 stone, which is, I'm not sure what that is in kilos or pounds, but she done amazing. And then I said to her, Maria Kemp, her name is, and she is absolutely phenomenal. She's determined to do it, and she's an amazing moderator in the group as well. And her knowledge on keto as well is just, when I asked her to be the moderator, and she said, oh, I don't think my knowledge is as good as yours. And I was like, well, I've been keeping an eye on you for a while. But they've just all got determination, and they've all told me that they've hit their lowest point with dieting, and they can't be in that area anymore. They can't do it anymore, and they need it. So they've all got determination in common, and they just go for it, and they give it all guns as well. I'm super proud of them, you know, all of them.
Yeah, and also it's wanting to be successful, right?
Yeah.
Starting a lifestyle, you want to be successful. You don't want to be going into it doubting it already, right? You know, I don't even talk to people about keto if you're talking to me about it to debunk it. I don't have time for that. Like I'm only gonna talk to you about keto if you actually want to know
Yeah.
about keto, right? Because some people will just be talking to you about keto to just discount you, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So they could, you know, spew their own knowledge to you, right? So I don't even have time for those type of people. But you you gotta have the right attitude going into it. You can't
Yeah.
be going into it with doubts. You gotta be getting into it wanting to succeed.
Yeah, I mean, what I done recently with as a kind of a test with 4 or 5 clients is they've come to me and they said they want to coach, and I've given them a list of things, like a very, very, very basic PDF with just a little bit of knowledge in it. And I've said, okay, come back to me in 2 weeks and then I'll coach you. And they're like, oh, but I need it now. And I'll say, well, come back to me in 2 weeks. And if you need it in 2 weeks, then I'll coach you. And they said, well, I can't do it without you. And I'll say, well, prove to me that you want me to coach you then. And I tried that with a few people, and now I'm slightly changing my plan. And rather it being a 4-week plan, I'm changing it into a 6-week plan. And the first 2 weeks you have to do on your own. And you can text me or you can message me or whatever, and I'll give you a little bit of guidance. But most of it, those 2 weeks, you have to learn yourself. But all the information that you have to learn or that you need to learn is in that PDF. All the basic steps, how to input your macros, how to work out what you're eating, how to, get started. And then you have to do a little bit of research yourself. But it's like, you have to light your own fire. I'm not going to light it for you, but once it's lit, I'm going to keep it burning.
I like that.
And it really works.
It's like proving to yourself that you really want it, not just because I'm telling you to do it.
Exactly.
Right? You gotta want it.
If they don't want it, because perhaps, although I think keto, carnivore, and paleo is for everybody, perhaps that person isn't at the right stage in their life that they are ready to commit. Ready. And I don't want that person to waste hundreds of thousands of dollars on coaching and then at the end of it say, well, I've wasted my money. He was rubbish. Or I wasted my money. I wasn't ready for it. You've got to be ready for it. And perhaps you're not ready at the time, so I wasn't ready for paleo at the beginning. When I started CrossFit, I wasn't ready. In my mindset wasn't ready. It was more a case of, I thought I had to lose weight first before I started it, or, so I tried to lose weight and then went to the gym. So you've got to be ready for it. And if you're not ready, then come back to me when you are. It's fine. We can work together.
I love that. I don't think I've ever heard that before. It's a telltale sign that they really want it if they did it. Yeah, that's amazing. I like that. I like that one, sir. Well, anyways, thank you so much for coming on, Coach Kev. I really appreciate you. I want my listeners to be able to find you. Where can people find you, sir?
It's super easy. If you go to ketokev.com, all of my information is on there. If you go to the back page where it says contact us, you'll find links to the groups, to my YouTube, my Instagram, and everything I do. All my emails, whatever you need is all on there. So it's just, www.ketokev.com.
Thank you so much for coming on, sir. I really appreciate you coming on. It's really late over there. I can't imagine what it's like right now for you, but I am truly honored to have you here. I'm truly honored to be connected to you. Continue what you do. I'm a fan of yours. I will continue to support you in whatever you do, sir. So thank you so much.
No, thank you. It was a pleasure.
Have a good night, sir.
See ya.
Bye-bye.